Good afternoon from Munich. We're at the ICM in Munich. It's Fujitsu Forum 2018. What a morning we've had. Whew. The keynote from Duncan Tate and President Tanaka, without a doubt the high point of this morning. As we move into the afternoon session, we kick off with the second keynote. The collaboration economy is the title of this one. Fleur Copping from Fujitsu is being joined by three of Fujitsu's partners, being joined by guests from Microsoft, NetApp and Intel. Digital ecosystems are critically important to the landscape of business today. Collaborating with different businesses in industry, figuring out both technical, cultural and societal challenges, all part of the mix. In this keynote, we expect to hear how the four businesses working together are delivering compelling digital ecosystems that's to the benefit of their customers. The keynote format, we think this is going to be more of a sort of Q&A style with Fleur putting questions to each of the speaker, rather than this morning when we had President Tanaka take to the stage and deliver an opening, joined later by Duncan. And then before we wrap, there was a few questions at the end. But we think this is going to be more of a panel type approach, where we delve into the detail of what goes into a digital ecosystem and how it benefits customers. The theme of Fujitsu Forum 2018 is co-creation for success. Attendees, there's 12,500 of them that have come here today from more than 80 countries around the world. They're joining the keynote to experience firsthand the co-creation message and understand why collaboration in today's economy is critically important. We expect the keynote to last around about 40 to 45 minutes, and we expect to see, or hear, should I say, key insight from each of the partners. Now, mustn't forget Microsoft, they're on stage. There was that big announcement this morning with by Duncan Tate and President Tanaka. There's lots more that's going to be happening with Microsoft as Fujitsu and their partners innovate to deliver compelling solutions that benefit not just Fujitsu's customers, but each of our partners' customers as well. What else do we expect to see on Fujitsu Forum TV this afternoon after the keynote? Well, we've still got 6 interviews to bring your way. The themes that are coming out of this year's Fujitsu Forum, data, we knew this was going to be a big topic, but the emergence of cloud and businesses starting to look at the emergence of the cloud solutions replacing to a degree some of the on-premise. There's also been some consistent narrative with around what we should be looking at data-wise. Where should we be lifting data from? What should we be digitizing? Making sure that we're not just innovating for hype's sake. This morning I was doing an interview with the Workplace Anywhere team, and I made the joke around, will I be able to teleport myself to a meeting in the future? That soundbite just underpins what some people do think. They think technology is there just for the sexy stuff. The key points that we've had from all of our speakers on Fujitsu Forum TV today has been, look, this is about getting the right digital. That might be simple digital, it may be compelling digital, but it's got to be a solution that's fit for purpose with the organization. It can't be a generic solution, it can't be a cookie cut approach. And I think that's a theme that we're going to hear within the keynote this afternoon on the collaboration economy. Companies coming together, looking at common challenges and putting a viable solution that impacts customers for not just months, but years ahead. This afternoon we've still got a number of interviews to bring your way. We'll be on air till about 6:30 tonight, where we'll do a bit of a wrap up of the day and sort of wayfind you through the topics. We're back again tomorrow to do it all again. 08:50 tomorrow morning we'll be live again, and we've got a packed agenda to bring your way. Plenty going on here in the exhibition hall as well. So there we go. Let's take a look at the agenda that we've got. Now you'll notice some of those interviews are relevant to certain verticals. All you need to do is find the segment that's relevant to your business. Hopefully you can join us, and we aim to, I don't know, in about 10 minutes or so, the typical length of the interviews, our aim is to get you key insight that you take back into your boardroom that triggers conversation. What else can you do here at Fujitsu Forum? Well, there's an amazing exhibition hall downstairs where people actually get to experience firsthand all of the technology that's on display. This afternoon we'll be bringing you some pictures from the exhibition hall that will show you exactly what's going on. Pretty much pretty much every vertical. Here we go, as you can see, we've got those pictures for you. All of this is happening right now down in the exhibition hall. Robotics, fun little things, aren't they? But the serious message, it's about looking at the business problem behind it and understanding how you can be creative and innovative with solutions to deliver long-standing solutions. We had that wonderful interview with Citrix this morning. They made the point that it's not just about technology, there has to be philosophy and ways of working behind it. If you're making wholesale change, if you're migrating new systems, you have to have processes that means it's seamless for your employees to pick up with the new technology and run with it consistently. Otherwise, you're investing and upgrading for, well, just for the sake of it. The core message coming out of Fujitsu Forum today has been co-creation for success. Collaboration, it's going to be key in the keynote we're about to hear with Fleur Copping. She's the head of alliances EMEA here at Fujitsu. She's going to be joined by Lisa Spellman, who's a VP for data center from Intel, no less. Ranjit Sudan, he's over at NetApp. He's the Converged Infrastructure Group, and he's going to be helping us to understand what NetApp have been doing with Fujitsu. And then last but not least, Michael Vanderbell, Corporate VP at Microsoft. He takes to the stage. All four of our wonderful speakers will be helping us to understand the collaboration economy and why a digital ecosystem is critically important to success in business today. We expected to have that keynote for you at about 2 o'clock today. Such is the demand from the 12,500 people that have flown in from more than 80 countries around the world. It's taken it a little longer to find everyone to their seat. We hope to bring you these pictures in the next minute or two. Let's look ahead to tomorrow, because there's some standout interviews tomorrow that you do not want to miss. Public sector. If you're working in public sector, we have a not to be missed interview. The Estonian government are doing amazing things. If I tell you that in Estonia right now it takes just 18 seconds to do their tax return, surely you want to understand what else they've got up their sleeve. But to this afternoon's keynote, the collaboration economy. Fleur Copping, head of alliances EMEA at Fujitsu, joined by guests from Intel, NetApp and Microsoft. They're going to be walking us through the landscape for the digital ecosystems and how we embed that into business challenges. What else can I tell you? Sorry, they're running just a moment or two behind. I'm being spoken to in my ear. They're making the final amendments to the keynote. So let's look at the agenda again so you can understand how to navigate your diaries. Because obviously you've got work to be doing back in the office, but we've got some wonderful interviews that can help impart insight to you. Some of them are vertical specific, some of them are technology specific, some of them are process specific. All you need to. I'm here and we're ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, your second keynote of Fujitsu 2018, the collaboration economy.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. It's time for the second keynote session, which is called the Collaboration Economy. It's fantastic having all of you here at Fujitsu Forum 2018. Now, as you may know, that the central theme this year is actually co-creation for success. And a key element for co-creation is the development of new ecosystems, of course, to encourage innovation and also new thinking. And this afternoon, our panel discussion is going to be talking about the changing nature of collaboration and also the importance of new partner ecosystems. And we have fantastic representatives here today, actually, from Fujitsu, Microsoft, Intel, and NetApp, and they'll be talking about their personal insights. So it's a very timely topic, so I would say let's get started. And here are our guests, so please do welcome the Corporate Vice President, EMEA, Microsoft, Michel van der Bel. We also have the Vice President, Data Center Group, Intel, Lisa Spellman. We've got the Vice President, Converged Infrastructure Group, NetApp, Ranjit Sudan. And we've got the Vice President, Head of Global Strategic Alliances, EMEA, at Fujitsu, Fleur Copping. So it's fantastic having all of you here.
Thank you.
Welcome. And so I would say let's get right into the discussion, and let's pick up with a theme from this morning's keynote. Now, Fujitsu's recent global research actually highlighted that business leaders believe in the type of employees most critical to their future successes are innovators, collaborators, as well as doers. So let's start with you, Ranjit, because you have successful partner ecosystems. So would you agree that this combination is also true for your business?
Yes, we do believe that. I do believe that. So, all three are important, and most successful partnerships encompass all three elements together. And the critical thing, from our perspective is, new technology offers a lot of value, but oftentimes it's very difficult to integrate. And so our goal in our partnerships is to make that consumption easier and simpler. And when you look at most solutions that we come out with, they happen to transverse multiple technologies from multiple partners. And the idea here is that we need to collaborate and innovate with these partners and execute to make that a better experience for our customers. And a good example of that is what we've done on NFlex. We've done working with Fujitsu. We've built a pre-engineered converged infrastructure system. We've innovated on many levels, and examples of those are the integrated management that we provide with Fujitsu for NFlex, as well as proactive cloud-based monitoring and support. And from a collaboration side, you have to collaborate across the organization, not only at the executive level, but at the engineering level and the go-to-market level as well to be successful.
And Lisa, how do you see that?
I think that, pointing out innovation, collaboration, and doers or execution is important is it's great. It makes a lot of sense, but the thing that is the leadership challenge around it is what do you actually do to make these attributes come to life within your culture in a technology company or within an IT management system. So it is easy to say and identify what you want, but the real challenge is changing your reward systems and driving your behaviors to actually get these types of behaviors to come to life. And you look at in a business unit or in an IT team or any of our companies, the initial focus and the fastest thing people get to is P&L management, cost efficiency, best utilization of resources, all of the very hard line things you can measure definitively. And what takes a lot more work and thoughtful purpose is getting into these what you might call softer behaviors, but are actually the things that make a company run and then allow it to be able to partner across the industry. Like you can't partner if you can't demonstrate these types of capabilities.
Michel, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, super critical have these three types of employees. I think, also building what was said, it's a leadership opportunity. And at the same time, I think there are a few principles that need to be applied looking at the organization in a modern way. Today, you have, of course, a hierarchy. Ideas don't flow well through hierarchy. So I think we need to have a hierarchy because you have energy if you don't. But at the same time, I'm thinking, looking really as a reverse pyramid to say, okay, what are the frontline people actually doing all day and how are they being empowered to do the right things? And that's, for me, a leadership opportunity. And in Microsoft, we're in the middle of that transformation, and we are saying today to our employees that you don't work for Microsoft, Microsoft works for you. And that's to really shift the thinking that all those resources that are out there in the hierarchy, from the CEO down to everybody, that's there to leverage to be that mobilizer and innovator in front of the customers. And that's a massive shift. And that's clearly what I would describe as the leadership opportunity, to have that leadership capability to empower people to do those things.
And Fleur, how do you see it?
I echo that completely. I think we talked earlier around also people just in general being really important. And I think we've all probably experienced those situations where you've got a key project and you can never find the people to actually work on it with you. And I think that's where the power of an ecosystem comes to play. You're using the innovators, the collaborators, and the doers from a wider source, from your partners, from the customers, and all working together. Fujitsu talks about co-creation for success. That's all around innovating with our customers. When it comes to understanding what the business problem is and the problems you're trying to solve, that's all around having the collaboration and understanding how you solve those problems and make sure it works. And of course, doing is all about the execution and making sure that we're all there executing together flawlessly and making sure these things happen.
All right, now the research actually shows that 78% of business leaders believe the ability to change over the next 3 years is really key to success. So, Michelle, starting with you, do you agree with this? And if so, why?
I definitely agree with it. It's more to say the what versus the how. And I would like to get the perspective of the panel as well. But because I think by now, everybody's clear about what needs to happen. If you think about transformation, or you think about your IT systems or application, legacy application, you go on and on, AI, what have you. The how starts to become super critical. And again, if you think about this statement, that's clearly what needs to happen from a leadership perspective. And be very transparent to yourself and to your teams to say, okay, what does it take for me as a leader to make this change happen? I think that learn to lead yourself first before you can lead others is something that I learned to say, okay, because you need to go through this yourself versus telling everybody, hey, why don't you change, or why don't you, do these things differently? And also, was said earlier, do you have a supporting system? If you have all these changes happening, if you think about the culture, we ask people to take more risk. Well, great. So if people take risk and they made a mistake, then what? We had a very rigid performance system that we completely moved away to be sure that we can capture that opportunity for people to do things differently, take risk, and if they fail, then okay, we learn and we move on. So that's the opportunity I would describe of this statement of management.
What do you say to that, Fleur?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think, talking about how quickly we need to change in the next 3 years, if I just reflect back, it wouldn't have been so long ago I'd have been working on a bid where I would have been using contractual language like prime, sub, supplier, not really true partnership type conversations, no joint risk or reward or risk sharing within a deal and opportunity, and saying, oh, we're a platinum partner of whatever, used to be really what everybody expected. Now, I think they really do, customers really require us to work truly together as partnerships, and I think we need to speed up how that works. I think we've made some big jumps, but I think we can do that a lot faster, and not just at the front end of the process. Is also then once something's implemented, we all know that in an ideal world, nothing would ever go wrong. It often does, and when it does, the last thing you want when you have got an ecosystem and a group of partners working together is someone to go, oh, that's not me, that's Microsoft, or that's Intel, or it's NetApp, or VMware. What you need is everybody standing there and going, right, how do we sort this out, get this solved, how do we stop it happening again, how do we move on? So I think those are the things that we need to keep changing and keep evolving over the next 3 years.
I don't know. I just look at this one and I want to flip it on its head. I'm like, what are the other 22% thinking? If you look at the Fortune 500 list from 5 years ago, how many of those companies that were there 5 years ago are the Fortune 500 list today? And regardless of your industry, to not embrace change as a culturally acceptable attribute, it means you're the next taxi industry to get Ubered, or the next hotel chain to get Airbnb'd, or whatever the experience is, that someone will come in with the cloudification of everything that's delivered. The barriers to entry in technology are so much lower, and every service is delivered through technology. And so the importance of the embracing of change for good is so important. I just think, you know, we've watched inside of Intel, and actually you guys as close partners of us have seen us go through this change as well, as we've moved from a pure, you know, hardware CPU company into a software company, as we've changed the way we manufacture products, as we've changed the way we design together. All of those are examples of us having to take that hard look inside, like you had to do with your people attributes, and say we have to be different in order to succeed. And I think that plays across just about every industry.
And you know, kind of going back to the initial statement about the what and the how, I'd like to go back there. And you know, the pace of innovation is increasing, and the need to change and keep up with it is imperative to being successful in your business. And you know, I think what we're trying to do is remove the friction and remove the barriers to deploying new technologies and allowing our customers to do that in a way that lowers their risks and increases their benefits. And the key thing there is, you know, focusing on a business value that goes beyond your own product value, finding partners that can help you deliver that value. And what we focus on doing with our partners essentially is to design it, test it, package it, manage it in a way that makes it simpler and easier to consume.
Michelle, you wanted to add something, I think.
Well, yes, I maybe, you know, just for us to reflect on, if you're sitting in the audience and hear us talk, right, what would they think? And I'm not going to do a quiz or something, but no. No, but at the same time, of course, you know, we talk about tech companies, and we're all, you know, talking about it, but at the same time, again, coming back to the what and the how, you know, many customers are in a situation where they have legacy, they want to do the new stuff, they have the old stuff, and how do you make sense of it? And there's pressure from the chief exec that, you know, why is there no innovation enough? So I think that how have you, you know, we all meet customers on a very regular basis. How do we take that in and be sure that we are coming back with the right advice? If you think about that, in my mind, all the industries and all the customers that I've met are today at a point that they all would do something that they've never done before. And including Microsoft, by the way. We're doing things we have never done before, so you cannot buy a book, or you can hire an advisory company, whatever. So how do you really help to compare notes about that change? And like you said earlier, it will not be perfect, but have that kind of intensity about, okay, how does the plan look like, and how do we do this in a very collaborative way? So I'm not sure what your observations with your customers that you have talked to, but any kind of insights or learnings from that part. Don't want to put you on the spot, but...
Okay. Oh, that's one's coming back to me. You know, actually, one of the things that I love about the way business has changed over the past several years is we're learning so much more from our customers than it used to be a model that we've discussed before of just, you know, go out and pitch something. Here, I have something to throw at you, throw across the table. And now it is much more a conversation of requirements and needs and being part of driving that digital transformation through those hard challenges or success. And, you know, again, as IT, over the past several years, there's been some really significant changes. Like, again, I mentioned the cloudification. You were facing pressure from business units when they said, I just went out and bought a cloud. I need a cloud. And now the new one that I joke about is everyone has their C-suite in saying, I need me some AI. You know, I don't know what for, but I have to have it. It's part of our, you know, company next wave. So being able to work with customers and help them through that as we go through the journey as well, it leads to a fundamental higher level of alignment than I think has been there in the past. I have a thing, will you buy it? Yep. So it's more fun.
Fun is always good. In regards to new partnerships, Fleur, and collaborations, do you perhaps have some recent examples for us?
Well, I guess what I'm seeing that's different now about how we are trying to take some of those customer issues, problems. We all talk about digital transformation. Actually, you say it really fast, it feels like it should be really easy to do, digital transformation. It's really hard to do, and you know, you can't do that. One person can't do it by themselves. You know, one individual within an organization, one partner, you know, we have to create the best skills we can and bring them to the table to do that. And again, a big change for me in how I see partnerships working successfully is when right at the beginning you work on a problem together. We've just done this with Microsoft, with Post Office that perhaps we were talking about earlier, around where before perhaps a Fujitsu would sit there and work with the customer to solve the situation, and then we might just double check it with Microsoft to go, do we think this works? Now, right up front, we get the cleverest people in the room that we can. We look to completely de-risk the solution. Who wants to move mission-critical services and things like that if they're not confident that actually it's going to work? And so for me, I think that's one of the big positive changes that I'm seeing coming out of ecosystems. What's the next? We've got to do it consistently. I'd argue there's probably people here sitting there going, I haven't quite seen that yet. So it's about how we make sure that we do that in every situation, and not just for the big things, but also for the smaller things that are going on, that are driving consumption consistently.
And Ranjit, would you have some recent examples for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, partnerships and collaboration is at the core of NetApp's culture and our strategy. One reason for that is that we see data management as being something that spans technology layers and location. So a few years ago, we came up with this vision and concept that we called the data fabric. And it was such a large vision and concept, we needed with integrated management and support. And that's something we've done with Fujitsu, and it allows us to have a very nice building block that adds significant value into the data center. We've also worked with Fujitsu and Intel in helping to bring to market and monetize Intel's Optane persistent storage class memory. And this memory is going to revolutionize application performance in the data center. And it's going to do it in a way that doesn't require any changes to the application. And what we've done is we've done a lot of co-engineering. It includes, we've also developed a new capability from NetApp. It's a software-based capability we call Max Data. And what Max Data does is it extends the NetApp file system directly on the Optane memory in the server. Okay? And then the last thing we're doing is we're building solutions around this, including NFlex, that allows it to be easily consumed in the marketplace. So removing the risk of ingesting new technology and new innovation. The last area we work with is with Microsoft, and part of the data fabric is being able to support a multi-cloud, hybrid cloud environment. And so with Microsoft, we've created NetApp Files for Azure. And NetApp Files for Azure is a native Microsoft Azure service that provides Azure customers with enterprise-class file services and multi-cloud capability within Azure. And what it does is it allows you to build a very nice relationship or integration between your NFlex, right, on-premise, and seamless migration to Azure as you move applications back and forth or build a proper hybrid cloud from the data.
Wow, right. Lisa, would you perhaps also have an example?
Yeah, I like Ranjit's example just because the one around the Optane persistent memory and the NFlex and the Fujitsu systems built around it, it is like a real live example of sitting there saying there is a customer problem. There is a bottleneck in the industry around memory and the way the applications can address it. But it is not something that any one of us could ever have addressed on our own. So, we had to do the technology innovation, create a new class of persistent memory, and then we need the partnership and the work to actually bring it out to market and have a solution base that'll make it easy to consume and really break through those application bottlenecks. So I think that's more the model that, of course, we all sell to end customers, but we sell to each other, and I think this is more the model. And the other one I thought of is a few years ago, Intel acquired an FPGA company, which is a very different endeavor for us, and it was new silicon, and we were working through how do we pair our Intel Xeon with these new FPGAs and make it work together. And to use the Fujitsu term, we worked with Fujitsu on what I would really call co-creation of those products, and this was very focused on the comm service provider and telco segment to deliver value and solutions there, but leaning on the expertise that Fujitsu has in this space, and then taking our hardware expertise and our newly acquired assets, allowed us to put together something unique and developed in a way that we've literally never done with Fujitsu before, despite all our years of hard work together. And we launched it this year at the Fujitsu Forum in Japan, but that's the model now, is solve the problem, rely on each other's expertise, and build something different than you could do on your own.
And we have to take that and actually be able to translate that into a business problem as well. So we're solving the technology problems so that if you are running HR for a big global company, or if you're the chief digital officer or marketing or something like that, the fact that this new capability exists can actually solve something that they're trying to do. So it's that translation as well between what's going on behind the scenes into actually how that can make a difference in someone's business. Because otherwise it's like, oh, box, chip, what does that actually mean to me? And I think that's something that's really important for us to be able to do and articulate, to bring it to life, as to say, well, this is going to make you 10 times faster, or it's going to take 100 million off of your bottom line, or whatever those business requirements are. Yeah,
maybe just one thing to add. I think that the industry has matured on this massively. If I look back a long time in Microsoft, how in the old days, our customers need to fix the interoperability, the data, so all the things that are there. Now that's being done by our teams, and as we speak, our teams are working on some very complex issues to be sure that it's solved, and it's not going to be solved by the customer. I think that's also telling the maturity of the industry, that this is something that we need to do together, even, by the way, with partners, but also with our competitors. So I think it's not like only that, but we work with all our competitors to be sure that there is a kind of common layer for us to move around at the estate of the company, and not having that burden on the customers.
Lisa, you brought a little something there. How does that represent collaboration to you?
I think it's I have a little show and tell, but it is an example of kind of, again, that cross-industry collaboration and what you were saying of bringing together of an industry. I think some of the security challenges that we all face today are an example of really reaching out, putting our arms around the entire industry and saying we will fundamentally solve these issues in order to protect customer data, customer privacy, and all of our companies on stage, plus many, many others, are working on that. And what I have here is an example of, you see that coming to life, where this is a Fujitsu server that is based on a Xeon E product, which we just launched on Monday. So Fujitsu did an awesome job getting their smallest ever, most dense server out by Monday and having the hardware here. So, nothing like a little pressure of an event to get things done. So the Xeon E product, it's a single socket entry server, but it also has some unique hardware-based security. It's called Intel SGX, but it's a hardware enclave that protects your most critical data. So we've engineered on the hardware side. We've worked with Fujitsu to put the right system management, do some software work around it. And then we have companies like Microsoft in their Azure cloud that are adopting this and delivering Azure's confidential cloud service built on top of this technology. And so you sit there and say, the goal is, how do we provide solutions, to your point about having a real use case, that allow users to fundamentally protect their very most critical data. And you see how it takes a hardware through to software to a cloud service type of execution to deliver that. And again, we launched on Monday. Azure Confidential Cloud's already launched. The hardware's already here. That's a lot of work, actually, that goes on behind the scenes to make that type of stuff happen.
Brilliant. So. Yeah. And Michelle, how do you think that the customers will actually benefit from these new approaches to collaboration?
Yeah, I think I would state that every company today is a technology company. Yep. And I think that And it doesn't end with that, because just throwing technology at it is not going to drive a transformation. And even if I reflect on our own transformation, Microsoft has access to all our technology free of charge. So if the thesis would be that you have the most technology, will be the most transformed, then we will be the most transformed company in the world. We're not. So we're in the middle of it, we make progress, we make mistakes, we course correct, and we learn. So I think understanding the component of, yes, great technology is one part of the equation. And if I reflect on, every year I'm in Davos, and so there are a lot of CEOs meeting there, and you're really getting a pulse about what's top of mind for CEOs in relation to, yeah, give me some AI, right? Yeah. That's great. But also to say, okay, how do you transform? And that question is beyond the technology, but how do you make it work? And then, of course, we talked about it today, and I think the human-centric approach of Fujitsu is really the right one. To say, this is about people, and people will make this change happen more than anybody else. And if you don't empower the people, or you don't have a point of view, then the technology will be great, but if the people don't use it and consume it, then the transformation will not happen. So I think we have so many notes to share, if you will, between HR teams on how do you drive a culture of change, and how you drive this culture of accountability versus change, and all the things that are critical for that. And like I said earlier, we are all at the beginning, so I think that it's a great opportunity in our engagement with the customers here. Hey, how do you compare notes of these things as well? And technology is important, but change, culture, equally important to make it happen.
And Fleur, what do you think?
I think what's interesting for all of us is change is happening so fast. And people within our organizations, our customers' organizations, different groups are at different places. So we'll have people that are used to looking after the core business and have done things in a certain way. And then you'll have people that are developing stuff super fast and really wanting to go at a completely different speed. And so it's how do we do that? Gone are the days where your main interactions with a customer is, well, you'd go in, you'd sign the deal, you'd go, thanks very much, and then 5 years later you come back and go, oh, we need to re-sign that deal now. I think we need to be thinking about how do we make these changes? How do we have these agile work streams going, where we've got people from different organizations all sitting there together going, right, now let's change this project, now let's move that on. And I think that's a different place for us all to be, and means that you've got to be there consistently. You can't just come in one day and then come in a month later and go, how is everything? It's about being consistent and being there and delivering.
And speaking of speed, Lisa, do you think that the nature of collaborations and partnerships are radically going to be changing over the next years? And if so, how?
Radical is such a big word. But I think a lot of it's already in progress now. What I think has changed so much is the complexity of all of the solutions and capabilities. And I love your point that there's no such thing as a non-technology business. Everything requires it. So I don't know whether it's radical other than the sense that there's just about nothing you can go at alone. And so if you have a culture that has that mindset, or you have a nice chunk of your workforce whose favorite phrase is, we've already tried that before, it didn't work, it's going to be a tough couple of years. Yeah. And so just getting into that mindset of collaboration is actually a fundamental part of how you'll be successful. It's quite obvious, so it doesn't seem radical, but it could represent a lot of change for a lot of people.
And I'd just like to add, in the data center environment, it's fairly standardized. We have Intel technology, we have Microsoft technology, customers using for many years, servers from Fujitsu, the underlying protocols, TCP/IP, NFS, Ethernet, fiber channel, all been standardized and known for a long time. When we go outside of the data center, so say we move to an IoT environment, the need for partnership and deep collaboration increases immensely. We have a world where the level of standardization is much lower. The IoT communication protocols, there are a dozen of those that have to be integrated. The data format is different. You're not running TCP/IP end to end. And many of these new IoT services and capabilities are real time. And the need for collaboration and to make sure that nothing breaks is incredibly high. And so I just look forward to a world where the collaboration is going to get deeper and more meaningful.
You seem to be agreeing as well, Michel.
Yeah, I think, and I keep coming back, you may sound like a broken record here, but I think there is that leadership component that I think I cannot emphasize enough about how you want to bring this to life in those partnerships and new partnerships. And I think that the notion about change and fueling change is not about being on stage, not today, doing a great speech, everybody's in tears, and then the next morning, your behavior is completely not aligned with what you said the evening before. So the audio and video, if they don't match, people immediately get that this is not real. So the change has to be exemplified through your behaviors on a daily basis, and with that, small things starts to matter, and then the change will come from the leader, and then it will follow. But it's almost an invitation for us that I'm telling you, because those days are clearly gone.
All right. Now, we've been on social media the last days. We've been pretty active there, asking the people about their views on this topic. And what is really interesting is actually over 80% of the respondents said that digital age requires a whole new approach to partnerships as well as collaborations. And when asked for the most important factor to actually achieve this, over 2/3 of the respondents said it was mainly about openness and trust. And shared goals, relevant skills, or clear contracts actually scored much lower. So the final question, starting with you, Michel, what is your take actually on these results that we just heard, and what do you believe is the most important for successful partnerships like yours, for example, to continue to thrive in this digital age?
Well, I think those two things are not mutually exclusive. I think they're very much in line, because if you want to have trust, you need to have contracts that reflect that trust, and not being a contract of the past. So I think that's one. Second, I think that the trust in partnerships is clearly critical, but also trust if you think about the decisions the customers today have to make about who do I team with as a provider of cloud services or system integration. That trust component becomes very clear. And I think there are a few principles that apply here that I think are critical in trust. First of all, we don't own your data, you own your data. So we don't have any interest in the customer data, it's theirs to keep. And why is that? Because that's what trust brings. And secondly, the business model of Microsoft is not interested in the data. Secondly, the part of trust is also about, do I have a long-term trusted partnership? Meaning that if you do something longer term with a partner, with us here on stage, and it's not that 6 months later we will acquire a company in your industry and start competing with you. That's trust. So all these things are, in my mind, the new chapter of trust in partnerships moving forward, given that there was so much at stake, and given that there was so much transparency that needs to happen in order to make this successful.
Okay, and Ranjit, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I thought the respondents were very sharp in their understanding of what it takes to be successful, and I think quite astute, because from our perspective, I don't think you can document your way through a contract to success. And when you look at digital transformation, it requires radical change that impacts the foundation of your company, and it's not something that can be achieved through incrementalism. And so, quite clearly, when you go down this path, right, you have to be in full cooperation, openness, and trust with your partner who's assisting you. You need to understand and clearly understand how difficult it's going to be, but the value and the benefit at the other end. And by working together, you can get there. But it's not an easy transition, and it's not an easy transformation. And it's something that you have to go in with your eyes wide open and with a partner that you truly believe can get you there.
Can I just be a bit controversial and
Sure.
not completely agreeing with what you said? I think I'm still very much about trust. Look into my eyes and trust me. That's great. That's a good start. But if you are talking about a long-term engagement, which cloud and migrations are and transformations are, you need to have a new contract that reflects that. And if I think about all the customer engagement I have with all the financial institutions to get them to, let's say, a contract that reflects the things we're going to do, but also the contract that reflects to say, okay, what happens if there's a data breach? Right? Is it to say, well, good luck, not us? No. What is our liability? What is our plan? What about security breaches? So all the things that are critical for the future trust, I think you need to be captured somewhere in a contract that reflects that. So I'm looking for a modern contract versus an old one, but it's still very much aligned to say, if you sign it, you can go in your organization to the CISO, to the CEO, to the CIO, say, listen, we signed this, and these are the commitments of this company in writing that reflect me. So yeah, I think that's the...
I think the contract is essential, is necessary but not essential to, it doesn't guarantee success.
No, that's
necessary, but
no,
not
I wish
sufficient.
it was. But
necessary but not sufficient, thank you. I think that's the way I would say it. You can't go forward without a contract, but it's not going to guarantee.
Also, I think we need a new vocabulary. You know, when we're talking about these things and when we're trying to document them, you can just imagine the commercial or the legal teams coming together going, well, how are we going to describe this trust and how are we going to describe the fact that there's going to be an ecosystem? And it feels like, well, if there's 4 people or 5 people involved, well, then that adds more risk to it. So again, I think this is something that we are going to have to work through together with the customers and ourselves to say, well, how do we sew all of that together? Because intrinsically, it makes sense that if we've got 4 really clever organizations around the table, that I'm going to get more input, I'm going to get more innovation or bigger brains working on it than if I've only got mine or 2 people's around the table. So I think that's where this collaboration economy, the ecosystems, that's where it's really got to expand out, where we start to change the vocabulary and say, right, how do we document this? How do we make everybody feel comfortable that there's enough skin in the game that no one's going to walk away and leave us high and dry, that we're going to commit to actually deliver something and we can be successful at the end of it. And some of that might be smaller projects to start with that gets things moving. People understand who works well together and how you then take that forward, as opposed to the kind of big bang we were talking earlier around, you know, those days where over the Easter weekend or over Christmas, you know, you moved from one system to another, and it was like, you know, do we go, don't we go? And it was like bang or bust. There was probably another word I was going to use there, but you know what I mean. And so now it's about, okay, well, can we do this in a different, more agile way, and use the best brains we can get around the table?
So Lisa, perhaps your point of view?
Yeah, the words collaboration, openness, and trust. The other thing is, that doesn't mean that everything is like nice and easy. So I think sometimes, you know, hey, we're having a nice time up here, we're in a nice chat backstage, but that's not like the reality of the day-to-day work. So I think what customers are expressing and then what we're all learning is you have to find a way to more effectively communicate what your boundaries are, whether they go into a contract, where we are actually like truly aligned on a business opportunity that we can go after together, where we actually have areas of different prioritization or efforts. And I think that's what people are looking for even more, is to understand the rules of the game they're playing versus get surprised by it or get it buried in niceties, I would almost say. Yeah. So the contract can help unearth some of those, but just, you know, genuine conversation about motivations and drive, so that it becomes so much clearer about where the benefit is going to come from. So collaboration, openness, trust, that doesn't mean everyone gets along on everything, and that doesn't mean everyone has the same goals. It just means you're going to respect your partner enough, your partner, your customer, whoever it is, to make sure that that's understood.
Right. And Fleur, would you like to conclude on this?
Yeah, so I think we've kind of covered quite a lot of aspects of, you know, what happens in an ecosystem and how it works. And what's also very clear is it happens in different stages or different layers of technology as we go forward. And I think, you know, one thing that we have all got is experience. So, you know, we've all been around and seen quite a few things happen. We've seen a lot of change, and we've got a lot of clever people within our organization. It's about how do we get those clever people in front the people that need their help. And I think, you know, historically, perhaps we've all been a bit slow at getting some of those people out of our organisations and in the right place. And I think that's something that, you know, we'll be looking to speed up and increase as we go forward, to say, right, okay, you know, let's not solve this in 3 weeks. Let's get some people together now and work out how to do it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this keynote session. So Fleur, Ranjit, Lisa, and Michelle, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your insights. Thank you.
Why?
Everything has gone out live, but it sits within Facebook, Twitter and YouTube for, well, forever and a day. So you've got it there as a reference tool. So if you've got colleagues that you think will benefit from seeing the video, all you need to do is tag them in. We continue this afternoon's broadcast at rapid pace in, we're 2:52 now. In 8 minutes' time, financial services, should I say. It's a fine example of digital transformation. This is an industry that's having to move to a more agile way of working. They're always becoming an agile technology business rather than a traditional financial services. We're going to be putting questions to Pascal Huibers to understand what all that means, why the changes are happening, and the positive yield it's delivering. If you work in financial services, this one is going to be worth 10 minutes of your time. Plenty more to come from Fujitsu Forum TV. See you soon.